So hello again. Last week I was photographing the Aussie beach huts doing that long exposure kind of picture, and this week I'm doing the same thing but at a different location. So this is a place called Pinmill. These are called the Pinmill wrecks or the Pinmill shipwrecks. Lots of people live on houseboats around here, but these boats are just here laying in the River Orwell, and you need a high tide for this. But I've just shot it, and actually when I arrived there were about 7 photographers here, all in this little spot waiting for high tide, and they're all now gone. And I've actually already shot the photographs that you're going to see in a minute, but I didn't really want to vlog in front of them, so I thought I'd just share this bit with you now. So what I've done, and I'll recreate it in a minute, I've had the GFX out, and the first thing that I've done is I have taken an exposure reading, and I was trying to get 125th, which was the shutter speed, whatever aperture I can get the most, really f11 at the minimum. So I managed to get that by turning the ISO up, and now I know the shutter speed is correct. I'm then using the Lee filter app, and I managed to get an exposure of 2 minutes at f11, and yeah. And that's the shot. Now, there's two shots here. There's also probably a panoramic, which I might do another day. But let me show you the photograph anyway now. It has been raining. I've also had an umbrella up, but that seems to have stopped now, so I don't think we need that anymore. So I've been adjusting the ISO. So the ISO was ISO 500. But obviously the smaller the ISO, the better the quality. So I've just changed that down to 200. And now what I'm going to do is just use the meter without the, there we go. So the meter is telling me without the filter on, that's 1/2 at f11. Leave the bag on there just to make sure that it doesn't get over the lens, which it isn't. Right, so next thing to do, a back slot of the filter holder, slap it down. I'm going to stand here because the light's coming from that side. It's not very bright today, which is perfect. So I'm just going to have this hand's over the eyepiece, and this hand is kind of over the side of the filter where the light will be coming in, just to make sure I don't get any light pollution whatsoever or any light leaks, which will diffract the image and make it a little bit softer. Also keeping the bag out of the way. Right, let's have a look on the back of the camera. That looks fine. Okay, I'm just going to shoot another one. And this is a 4-minute exposure now. That looked a bit dark on the viewfinder, so this will give me 4 minutes, and it will allow the water completely blur and the clouds will completely blur. The guys I've been talking to, by the way, really interesting. 2 of the guys here came over from Ireland this morning. They flew over this morning, photographing this at high tide. They're then going off to another couple of locations, and they weren't quite sure, but some locations near here. And then they're flying back tonight. Now, while I go to the Lake District, I'm going for photography. I think I'm going all this way. My photographs have got to be better. Didn't really ever think that there might just be some really good pictures on my doorstep, and there are wherever you are. This is about 35 minutes, 40 minutes from my house, so just haven't been here to photograph this before, so really enjoyed it. So if you ever watch this, guys, nice to see you, and you, Gilly. I believe your name was, sorry, I think just what you said it was, and 2 other guys here with him. Lovely to have a chat. Somebody asked me in the last one, how do you have that effect with the water? The way it works is the camera is dead still because of the tripod. The boats are dead still, so I could expose them for ages and they wouldn't make any difference, they wouldn't blur. But the water and the clouds and anything else that's moving will blur. And it just, so what you're looking at really is completely blurred water, blurred clouds, and it just makes the actual subject, which is the 2 boats, just stick out. So for this one, got slightly closer in just to cut out the barge on the right here to see what that looks like. I'm in the middle of a 4-minute exposure, but the benefit of getting a little bit closer, well, the downside is I'm not sure about the top of the mast there, but we are losing the tide. It's going out a little bit, so but I'm sure if I wanted that look anyway, I can probably crop this out with the shots that I've done earlier. I'm really, to be honest, just enjoying shooting this picture. So again, just covering up the eyepiece. It's a lovely quiet day, nobody's here now, but this is there's some lovely yachts up the river up in Ipswich. There's a boat yard who make really expensive boat. I don't know, make them, but they sell really expensive boats, and I think some people are maybe trying out the boats, these lovely luxury yachts that are going past. I come out with the intention today of shooting this monochrome. I've turned the screen to monochrome, so I'm kind of seeing what I'm getting. I still think it is monochrome, but there's some really lovely subtle colours, and grey light, dull light is really good. Just as woodland's really good in the rain. Anything that's photographed with a bit of colour on it, it looks really nice under a cloudy sky. So I think a colour might be interesting as well, so we'll have a look at both of them. Right, we've got another minute to go on this exposure, so fingers crossed everything looks alright. It's trying to get everything organised. It hasn't helped having a little bit of rain today, but I have had my umbrella out. There's been other people to talk to, which has been nice, but you also have to make sure that you concentrate. And but I think a pretty successful day. So what I'll do now is go back to the office. We'll have a look in Lightroom at these, and I'm probably going to print one of these out as well. So hopefully you follow along the process. So here we are in Lightroom. I've done some work to this already, not an awful lot, which I'll talk you around in a second. So the first thing that I did was I converted this to a square, and this is the photograph I took where you haven't seen me take this, but this is what it looked like with a high east tide. So I cropped to a square, just allowed a little bit of room to the right hand side there, and I made sure I've got the mast in. Not worried about this structure here at all. Some people will get rid of the background, but I think it kind of needs to be there because there's going to be things showing here, unless I make it all white, but I don't really like that effect. So this is what it's going to look like. It's going to be a black and white picture though, because I think the textures on these boats are lovely, which I'm going to convert in a second. The other thing I had to do was click on this angle here, this little spirit level, and what you do is you just roll that along the horizon line, just about there, and that straightens it all up. Press return. Done. Now, as far as the exposure for this, I've just raised the exposure a little bit by 3/4 of a stop. Left everything else the same. I've just increased the highlights just to give me a little bit more separation between the boats and the sky. Just pulls that up a little bit, that there, and then the shadows I've pulled out a little bit as well. Now, texture and clarity are going to be good for this, but I'm not going to do that without masking it because I don't want the water and the sky in the background to be affected by it. So what I'm going to do is click on the mask, and this should work quite well because we've got quite a contrasty scene. I'm going to ask it to find the main subject. Now, what you can see it's done here, which I don't want, is we've got some of the shadows being selected as well. So, and there's little bits in here, little bits in here. So this just needs tidying up a little bit. So what I'm going to do, if I press the space bar, I can zoom in. And then if I hold the space bar, the hand appears, I can move out. And then what I will then do is just going to brush over this. So the mask selected. So what I'm going to do is just take a brush. I'm going to press the square bracket to make it big. Now I don't need to be super accurate. You can probably intersect this as well. I'm just going to use a brush to tidy this up a little bit. I'm just going to subtract this from the mask. You see all that red overlay there. You can change that if you want to, the colour of it. I'm just going to move that along, quite a big feather on it.
Just to move that, and then hold the space bar again, move across, because I don't want clarity and texture in the water. I just want it on the boats themselves. Make the brush smaller. So that's what I'm doing, and what I'm going to do is just tidy all this up, and then I will come back to you and show you the finished mask. Okay, so here's the finished mask. You can see that I've, if I show you, zoom in a bit, this bit here is the important bit. I don't want any of this background to sharpen up with the clarity slider. Actually, I've missed a couple of little bits there, like in between there. And the mask is automatically selecting the edges, so as long as the brush is the right size, it should make quite a good job, and it is. I'm just clicking on that and it's just selecting the bit in the middle. So what I'm going to do with this is, as you adjust it, you'll find that the mask will disappear. So you can see, look, that's just affecting that bit where I've masked. So we've got, that looks about right. Now this screen is well calibrated, it goes really well with my printer. Just going to take the overlay off for a bit so I can see this. I've noticed it's all selected. Shadows, can pull out a little bit more. That's still fine. Contrast. Yeah, okay, so all I want to do now though, is I'm going to add a little bit of texture. And you can hopefully see, if I zoom in, see what it does. So it just makes the contrast between the dark areas stand out a bit, and also a bit of clarity. But what I don't want to do is give it lots of artifacts. But that's actually okay. Just sharpens the whole thing up without actually sharpening. So that is the mask, which I'm now going to close. I'm going to leave everything else the same, because what I'm now going to do, I've got some sharpening. I'm going to turn that right off, because what I'm now going to do is I'm now going to where am I? Photo edit. I'm going to edit this in a program called Enhancer, which you may have seen in my video, which I did a review of it. And I quite like Enhancer for choosing profiles. I don't necessarily need it for grain and things like that, although it is really good at that. I do like, it's almost like using it like a preset. So let me just show you that in action. It always defaults to the really small screen. You can see that's really grainy. So I'm going to choose a profile. I'm going to look at black and white, and these are all the profiles that Enhancer have worked out. So let's just take the grain off. Now this is the look I've been going for, the HP5 400. This film I used to use a lot as well, XP2. Quite like that actually. This one's quite nice. I'm just looking at the, so that's got a slightly magenta cast, that's got a slightly green cast. That one looks okay. So we're going to go with an XP2. Now there may be that this needs to be lightened up, but I'm not going to do that in Enhancer. There's lots of things you can do, and there's no reason why you shouldn't if you have it. You can see all the different conversations and stuff that you've got there. You can make it look really filmy if you want to, but I'm not really after that look. So I'm just going to OK that, and what that will do is it will take it back into Lightroom, and it's created its own copy. What we've got going here, okay, that was the one previously I've done. So this, I went with HP5 before, I think, there, and this is my new XP2, both of which look nice. Now you can see with the sharpening that Enhancer does actually sharpen it as well, so I have to be a little bit careful with this. Let's just turn on a little bit of sharpening. If I press the Option key, I can just mask out everything apart from the boats again, and I'm just going to add a bit of sharpness to that, but not an awful lot, just about there. Okay, and that's now ready for print. Now to print this, again, what I use, you can use a print module in Lightroom, but I actually go to plugin extras, Canon Professional Print and Layout, and this is really good piece of software. It goes with my Canon printer, So you can see I'm using A3. The profile photo speed, I've got a little PDF that you can check what the settings should be on if you haven't got custom profiles, and I haven't for this particular paper because I'm going to print this on legacy gloss. So, but the other setting I want to show you is this one here, because if you go down to pattern print, this is great because what you can then do is print yourself a little A4 contact sheet. So I've got, with my paper that I use for my A3 and my A2 paper for customers, I would always print an A4 contact print of all the different colours. So basically this has got brightness to 30, contrast of 5. That's what that means. That B means brightness of 0, so that's standard, and it's add a little bit more contrast. So what you can do is print one of those off and then have a look at them and decide which one you fancy, and then you can then adjust that. So where we've got this, you can then just adjust it and then print it. So I had mine on 10 and -5, and then I just press print.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that. Really enjoying these minimalism kind of pictures. They're lovely. I've got another one in mind, which I have shot before a few times. So I want to take you and show you that one maybe next week. In the meantime, thanks ever so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed, consider doing so, etc, etc, etc. Until next week, take care. Goodbye.